You have Congress spending like this, interest rates going up like this. The reason you increase interest rates is to get the fiscal spending and the dollar under control. But if they're going to continue in this insane, suicidal behavior of endless, massive deficit spending, you can raise interest rates all you want. Have you ever gotten a letter that says the government shut down, don't send us your money? No. The money keeps flowing in. But there's not enough money flowing in to cover the budget that they passed or the budget that Biden wants. Because we're here. So unless they raise the debt ceiling and borrow the difference between that $350 billion or so that comes in every month to pay for that budget that was passed when they weren't even there, and to pay for the demands of Joe Biden, which are even more extreme and radical, well, then they can't meet. So that money is flowing into the coffers of the Treasury Department regardless. Keep that in mind. Furthermore, you Social Security recipients, those who use Medicare and Medicaid, veterans, VA benefits, specifically by federal law, they are carved out of this process. In other words, of that $350 billion, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and VA benefits are to be paid. In addition to significant military benefits. When the government shuts down, Paul Ryan told me this many years ago before he had kind of flipped, it's really 17% of the government that shuts down. 83% of the government is considered essential. It doesn't shut down. It's still funded by the money that's flowing in. So you can see the kind of propaganda that Biden, the Democrats, and the media use to build all this pressure. They want Social Security recipients, people on Medicare and Medicaid, veterans. They want people at the throats of the Republicans. Well, they continue to deficit spend and massively increase the debt that is going to break the back of this country. Biden knows he'll not be around to see the consequences of what he's doing. So does Bernie Sanders. And so their answer is always, the Republicans won't pass a clean deficit bill and raise the debt ceiling, and the rich aren't paying their fair share. The top 10% of the successful people in this country in terms of measuring it by money, the top 10% pay 50% of the taxes. The top 20% pay 80% of the taxes. The bottom 50% pay no federal income taxes, not one penny. As a matter of fact, many of them received tax refunds on taxes they never paid, child credits, all kinds of things. You could take every single penny from the wealthiest people in the country, all the billionaires, and it wouldn't make up for the deficit, and it would barely touch the debt. They want a wealth tax. Wealth tax is unconstitutional. A wealth tax means you've paid your federal income taxes, you've paid your federal capital gains taxes, you've paid your payroll taxes, you've paid your state income taxes, you've paid your property taxes on your home, and they still want to know, what are you worth? I'm worth X. Okay, we want 10% of that. Every year? Every year. Wait a minute. But don't worry, it's only for the rich. They lie all the time. What that means is, as an example, without their rich propaganda, you own a home. The value of the home keeps going up. But I haven't sold my home. Let's say you bought a home for $250,000 and today it's worth $650,000. A wealth tax says, well, your home's worth $650,000. Pay us 10% of that. I don't have 10% of that. I haven't sold the home. There hasn't been a taxable event. Well, we're changing the definition of tax. You don't have to sell your home. That's the value of your home. Don't worry, America. We're only going to do this on people who are worth $10 million or more. Remember that provision they snuck into their so-called Inflation Reduction Act on $600? That if they find through PayPal or any of these other pay services that you reimbursed a family member or a family member gave you money or purchased something from a stranger or a family member totaling $600 over the entire year, that's to be reported by PayPal and Venmo and everybody else, and you're going to get a 1099, which means you're going to pay income taxes on it. That's $600. When Joe Biden says, don't worry, I'm not raising taxes on anybody who earns over $400,000. I don't know where he got the $400,000 as opposed to $500 or $300. It doesn't matter. They're liars. They always lie. They need to get to you, the great, vast middle class. Believe it or not, that's where most of the wealth is. They need to get to small businesses. Small businesses employ more people than big business. So they need to get to you. And even when they get to you, it won't be enough. Why? Because they adopt something that's called modern monetary policy. What's that? It's insane. There's nothing modern about it. They try to change the laws of economics again. They say that the government, it doesn't really matter how much it spends each year in deficits or overall and a debt, because the government can print the money. So the idea that the government owes the government money, they argue, is not a problem. But of course, they ignore the fact of inflation. When the government spends more than it has, over time it adds up, it adds up, it adds up, it adds up to inflation. Inflation can lead to stagflation, which is where we're headed. And stagflation can lead to a depression, where you lose everything. Everything. And that's where the Democrats are dragging us. Look at our currency right now. The idea that communist China, this communist regime, this dictatorial regime, is going around the world and replacing the American dollar as the world's currency for their own currency is frightening. That means the United States is going to become a second-rate superpower, and China is going to become the most powerful superpower. Economically, let alone militarily. When the dollar's replaced, that's because we're devaluing the dollar. The Democrats are, with the help of rhinos like McConnell. They're weakening the value of our currency. Weakening the value of the currency, demanding that we increase the debt, arguing that the answer to inflation is more inflation, more spending, making sure that your children and your grandchildren, as well as you, are going to suffer the consequences, is not only immoral, as Walter Williams says, it's a disgusting, unconscionable disgrace.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to LevinTV.com and subscribe now.